Hello, I'm Gary Leland.
And I'm Tony Cecala.
And we are the Crypto Cousins.
Cousins.
Thanks for joining us for another video in our video tutorials on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And today's question, Tony, is what is mining? I mean, do I get a shovel and I go digging? How do I mine Bitcoin? That's the biggest question my wife has a problem with is how are people mining and getting free Bitcoin? What is that?
Well, that's a good question. People want to know how you mine Bitcoin or how do you mine any cryptocurrency. And the reason people mine is to actually work on the network and take each transaction and determine that someone hasn't double spent the money. You don't want someone to double spend Bitcoin. You don't want someone to cheat you on a transaction. So the transactions get confirmed on the network, and the confirmations require the computers to do some work. The harder the work, the bigger the computer. The more important it is to have the transaction be confirmed. So miners do that. They do the work on the network, and for doing all that work, they get paid. And the reward is, in the beginning, the reward was 50 Bitcoin for a miner, and one of many, many miners would get that reward because the work was very, very hard. So it's almost like a lottery. There's a lot of guessing going on, guessing of numbers to try to get the right one. And as time went on, the reward for Bitcoin has halved. The difficulty got harder to do the math because the person who created Bitcoin knew that computers would be getting more powerful and quicker, and so the work had to get more difficult. So that's what mining is. You're working on the network, you're basically confirming transactions, and in doing so you get a reward, you get some crypto.
So you're getting, the mining is approving transactions?
Well, that is what's happening behind the scenes, exactly.
So your computers, I just want to make sure I understand, if your computer's mining, it's actually part of the blockchain approving transactions into the ledger.
Exactly.
And that's mining, and you're rewarded for doing that work with Bitcoin.
You're rewarded with crypto. If it's Bitcoin, if it's the Bitcoin.
Yeah, whatever
blockchain,
Bitcoin you're
exactly.
approving,
Exactly.
you're mining.
Mm-hmm.
You can mine anything.
Exactly.
But basically, it's not, I still have a problem with that. I know my wife does. I want to make sure this is so clear that she doesn't watch this and say, I don't know what you just said. So that's why I'm going into detail. So I've got a computer mining. While it's mining, it's really following the ledger system or the network of the cryptocurrency, saying, yes, that money was spent, which we talked about in an earlier episode. And the more of that it does, the more it'll be rewarded with money.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just guess a number. Someone told me it's just a riddle, a mathematical riddle that it's trying to figure out.
Well, at a very, very small level, at the very, very simple level, the actual transaction is not something that the computer thinks about. All the computer is given is a small problem to solve. And the problem is to find a number that will lock up those transactions and basically put a signature on the block. And that number is hard to find.
So what is that number? I mean, what? I'm still confused, Tony, and I'm sorry to say that. So I know that if I'm a little confused, our viewers are still confused. So what is the number it's looking for? I know you can't say it's number 6543258, but what does that number belong to? Where's that number come from? Tell me anything about that number.
So
what is it affiliated with? Or?
Well, depending on the type of proof of work, Bitcoin has a certain type. The proof of work requires that you find a hash of all of the transactions.
What's a hash?
And a hash that's a great question. A hash is you go through all of the numbers and then you determine basically a signature of what all of those digits are equal to. And there are different algorithms. The Bitcoin uses the SHA hash, S-H-A hash. And so each hash is a very big number. And the network tells us that it has to be less than a certain value. And of all the numbers it could be, it has to be less than a certain value. And the smaller the value that it is, the harder it is to find.
So that's the thing that keeps changing and halving is the smaller the value.
Exactly. So the computer takes a random number, adds it to the calculations, tries to come up with a hash, and that hash isn't small enough, it has to try again. And it'll do that millions of times, trillions of times each second. The network is doing that, taking those guesses.
And so, tell me one more time, what is the number affiliated with? It must be affiliated with something.
It's affiliated with the transactions that took place in the previous 10 minutes.
Okay, so everything mining has to do with the transactions that happened in the previous. So mining is basically verifying a system to make people verify the transactions that have happened.
Exactly.
So so mining is verifying.
It's verifying.
And so that's how all the transactions are verified and kept up with. All these people wanting to get free Bitcoin for doing all this work, they're being rewarded. They're doing all this work. They're going in. They're keeping up with the transactions. They're keeping the ledgers, keeping everything going, and they're rewarded with Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Well, I think I understand it now.
I like the way you put it.
Well, thank you very much.
You answered it very well.
I hope at the end there we finally got the. I think I understand it now, and I hope you do too. Thanks for joining us, because we are
The Crypto Cousins.